From Las Vegas, Nevada, we welcome you to the podcast Real Estate Talk with JC Castillo. JC Castillo and guest.
Good morning, Las Vegas. My name is JC Castillo. We are here starting your program, Real Estate Talk with JC Castillo and your guest. I'm here at the Equity Title Studio, and we have the great opportunity to have one of my favorite agents out there to make sure that, we bring you the right information. And I'm going to go ahead and give you the introduction. And I'm going to introduce Miss Haya. Haya, good morning. How are you?
So happy to be here with you today.
Thank you, Haya. I really appreciate your opportunity to be here. And again, if you want to go ahead and provide us with, first name, last name, the company you represent with, and how can people get a hold of you, I would really appreciate that.
Sure. My name is Haya Kessler, and I am with Realty One Group. I am the team lead for the Kessler team. And you can reach me at 702-538-5565. Mm-hmm. You can also reach me by my email, Haya Kessler, HayaKessler 01 @gmail.com. And you can check us on our website, the Kessler Team LV.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And you're talking about a team because you've been able to build this and attract this group of real estate professionals to your team to make sure that you guys provide great service to your buyers and your sellers right now. So talk to me a little bit about your team. How many people, how many team members do you have? What are their expertise individually? So like that we could highlight your team as well.
I have right now 8 agents in my team, and with me and my operations manager, Brandon, we are 10.
Nice.
And it's a very multicultural team. And very diverse.
Right.
We speak several languages, from Spanish to Chinese to Tagalog, Polish.
Oh, okay.
So Hebrew. So, we have different agents, and we cover the whole metro area.
Right.
Henderson, Las Vegas. We even go to Pahrump, Sandy Valley, Overton, Logandale.
Nice. And you know what? Those are great cities that you're talking about, because everybody talks about Las Vegas, Henderson, Summerlin. We've talked about Pahrump, but there are other cities in the Las Vegas Valley that are still, real estate is being purchased and is being handled.
Yes.
And I'm glad that your team has expertise in those areas, because, you do have to be an expert on the specific area that you're representing, correct?
Yeah, and one of the good things is, like, for people that are looking for land and they want to be just an hour away from Vegas, and they want a small town feel, they can go to Overton and Logandale.
Right.
They can go to Pahrump. Pahrump is only 45 minutes from Pahrump to the Strip area or to the airport. So it's really not any further than going to Lake Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's right.
Or to North Las Vegas. If you go all the way to Sky Canyon, that's another 40. So, it's really not that far.
Right.
And you can get everything cheaper. Their houses are cheaper. Your auto insurance is cheaper. Your house insurance is cheaper. And it's a great place for a lot of retirees. People come and retire in Pahrump.
Yeah, because what you're acquiring in Pahrump is you are not only purchasing the property, but also you're purchasing quite a bit of land.
Yes.
And that's something that here in Vegas we're running out of. I mean, the statistics says by 2035, we are going to be maxed out in the Valley of Las Vegas. And we're going to have to now really start going outside of the valley, which we see it right now. Yeah. A lot of communities are starting to go over the mountains and everything. So it's really important to for our listeners to understand that there are options out there.
Yes.
So don't just get discouraged because, you can't find a $250,000 home in Summerlin, right?
No, I don't think you're going to find a $250,000 home anywhere right now.
Right.
I think that's going to be a little pushing it.
Yes.
But you can get, if we go same home, a builder home in Pahrump versus the same builder, the same floor plan in Las Vegas or around Summerlin will be about $200,000 more, more in the Southwest, Northwest.
Right.
You can get it for $100,000 less. So, it is just going to be, Pahrump is definitely, if you want land, if you want a quiet place, if you want like a feel of a small town, yet be close enough to the city, Pahrump is wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. But we are here talking, and we were talking before we jumped on the air. We were talking about how, the real estate market in this, first quarter of the year, because if you really think about it, we just finished the first quarter of the year, right? Yes. Now, here we are April the 3rd. We're starting the second quarter. But the first quarter of the year, everybody thought, and everybody's business has been a little bit, jumping. It's been great and it's been slowed down. It's been great and slowed down. But you and I were talking about how the inventory in the last month and a half has definitely become a very healthy inventory. And you were throwing some numbers around, which, if you remember them, I would love for you to talk about them.
We have about 9,000 total properties in the market. It's actually 9,800 something. Right. About 6,000 of those are single-family homes, right, and 3,000 are everything else, condos. Correct. And townhomes and prefab homes. Right. So we have a big inventory. We are not in a buyer's market yet, but we're not in a seller's market. So we're kind of like in between. And we are about 17% more inventory than the same month, February of last year. So our inventory is going up. Right.
And that is a good thing because, again, we're seeing that people are still in the real estate industry. They're still in the real estate market. Some people need to sell because they have to sell. Mm-hmm. There's some people that said, you know what, it's time for me to sell and make me move up right now. We're seeing a lot of new constructions coming online as well. I mean, last time we had one of the builders come in and talked about how, they're going to start developing new, another $3,500 homes around the valley. So we're seeing that there's new homes being built. And usually the normal transition is, you buy your starter home, you build up some equity, you get that equity, then you move into a new home in the neighborhood you want, and then you kind of scale up like that. So we're seeing that healthy inventory really flourish. How important is for our buyers to really understand that that's a great opportunity, but not always you need to lowball a buyer or a seller. You don't have to come in with the lowest offer either, because that impacts the market in the neighborhood as well. So how important is for the buyers to really understand that they need the guidance of a professional like somebody in your team to be able to write an offer or submit an offer that makes sense for everybody?
Well, I think one of the misconceptions of people is that they think that right now we're in a buyer's market and they can ask for everything. They can ask for, give me your firstborn child because I am the king of the universe. And it's not like that. Yeah. We're seeing houses being priced pretty much at market value. Right. But it's taking a little bit more time to sell. Our market time, they're saying it's about 50, 60 days. Mm-hmm. The reality is it's a little bit more because, it's an average. Yes. And the average, we have those houses that sell in one day because they sell quick. And then we have those houses that sell, in like a year. Right. So, but the average in reality, if we really think about it, it's about 100 days in the market. Right. So, we're talking about 2 months, which is really not that bad when you think about it. But people got so used to right after COVID of things going so fast. Correct. And, we have the sellers that think that they can sell their house for a lot more money than they did before. Yes. That it appreciated so much than the buyers that think, well, no, there's too many houses. We're going to lowball it. Mm-hmm. So we really need to look at the condition of the house, and we really need to look at the need for the house. It's not, in real estate, houses are valued at what anybody is willing to pay for.
You know what? I love what you just said. Can you repeat that? And please, guys, pay attention because this is really important for both buyers and sellers. Yes. There's not a secret sauce. There's not a single pill, but the statement that you just said, it is so true to real estate. So can you repeat that statement again, please?
Yes. And basically a house, real estate, any real estate is valued at whatever the person is willing to pay for. Agreed. And if you think about COVID time, right after COVID, 2021, 2022, until the interest rates went up, people were paying 10, 20, 30, 50, 100,000 above market value. Yes. The houses were not worth that amount. No. But they were paying that because they perceived the value. They needed to move. They wanted a house. There was not a lot of inventory, and they paid for that. What happens is that when there's a lot of inventory, people don't perceive that they need to pay that much because, well, if I don't get this one, I'll get that one. And they're desperate to sell. Not all sellers are desperate to sell. Not all sellers need to sell. Right. Yeah, some people need to sell right away, but the majority of sellers are not desperate that they're going to give you on a $300,000 home or $500,000 home, $100,000 less than asking price, or $50,000 less than asking price.
Right.
You really need to check the condition. You need to check what is that you're buying there to make an educated offer.
Right. And I love what you just said, an educated offer, because I think that's really important. We get spooked, or we get the news and everybody like, oh, the market is this, oh, the market is that, the interest rate is up, blah, 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 here and there and everything. But I believe this is the reason why there are professionals out there, and somebody like yourself that's been in the industry for a long time, that's seen the up and downs in the market, they've seen what's going on and everything, and you're teaching your real estate team on how to be able to be successful when this market gets, a little bit, interesting, right? I think you mentioned something, and we were, again, talking about this before we jumped in the air, is that, you brought statistics. You went to a Tom Ferry seminar, and they were bringing, and they talk about it in the statistics, and it's really funny because that's the same statistic that I was just talking about, like not even a day or two ago with a real estate agent. But I'm going to throw out the statistics, and then you're going to tell me what you heard in the Tom Ferry seminar, and then we're going to get into discussion about it. But the statistics said that 32% of all transactions in the month of February and March canceled.
Yes.
And you were telling me that Tom Ferry talked about it, and he gave another statistic about the state of Nevada, or the market in Nevada.
Yeah, and actually we are the number one for cancellations.
Nationwide.
Nationwide, yes. Which is very, very, very sad and very scary.
Yes.
Because, it affects everybody. It affects the buyers. The buyers have an expense when they go do inspections and start the process of purchasing a home. The sellers, they have to move. They put this house, they take it off the market and put it for somebody to buy it. And then for minutia, for little things that sometimes make no difference, it gets canceled. So, it's very important to get educated before you buy a house. I know that there's a lot of realtors, and I know, everybody wants to save a little money here and a little money there, but sometimes saving a little money will cost you a lot of money. And we have about 17,000 real estate agents in Clark County, which is a lot.
Yeah, well, we'll see how many are left after April 5th, because everybody has to pay their MLS dues. So usually we have a little bit of drop right there. But you're right, there are a lot of real estate agents out there, which is great, right? You have a lot of variety, but at the same token, you need to understand that when you put a transaction together, there are a couple of things that you need to be aware of. And one of the things that we were talking about was the inspection.
Yes.
How important is to really understand the inspection, because the inspection is a benefit for the buyer. It's nothing that really has to do with the seller, but it's more of an educational tool for the buyer on the purchase they're making. So, we were having a conversation earlier, and we were talking about the inspection. Give me your honest opinion of how a real estate professional should handle that inspection process with their buyers, so like that there is no expectations, and we could slow down these cancellations.
Well, one of the things that we do is we educate our clients.
Correct.
It's very important that they understand that the inspections are for them to find major problems with the house.
Correct.
If you're buying a house that is 20 years old, it's going to have a lot of little problems. The door may creak, the toilet may swing, a faucet may leak a little bit. And then the inspectors, they're going to give you sometimes, we got an inspection report that was 120 pages long.
Oh, wow.
And major problems, there might have been 3. But there were a lot of little things. There's a crack on the tile, there's a little dent on the wall, there's a scratch on the window. So really one of the things that we do with our clients, we educate them prior to the inspection, and we let them know the inspection is for you to find the major problems that are going to be either that the house is going to, fall apart.
Right.
There's something in the house that is not by code, something in the house that can cause harm, or something in the house that can cause death, or a major problem, like the whole roof is falling apart, or like in the case of a house that we had, it had a rat infestation.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big problem.
That's a big problem.
Yes.
So, so you want to make sure that items like that are repaired, or you get credit to repair them, because not necessarily all the time the seller is willing to repair. Or, you make an offer based on some of those items if the seller, is gonna is gonna disclose to you ahead of time if you know that, so you can make an offer based on that. So if you make an offer based on the problems of the house, if you see that the house is falling apart and you made an offer based on that, and then you go and do an inspection, you cannot keep deducting money for the house because you already went through that. You already made an offer based on that.
Yes, and I just love what you're saying right now, because, you know, human beings, we are very visual.
Yes.
Right? We walk into a house and we see a dated carpet and you're like, oh, I got to replace the whole carpet.
Yes.
Right? You see that there's, you know, I don't know, wallpaper from the 1950s there, and you're like, oh, I got to repaint the whole house. I mean, you're automatically, when you walk into a house, you're automatically deducting the things that you think that need to be repaired.
Yes.
But most likely, just because there's a wallpaper that you don't like, that doesn't mean that it has to be repaired.
Correct.
By the seller.
Correct.
And it's very important for you guys, you and your team, to really be very clear and transparent with your buyers and make them understand. It's just because, you know, it might not please you to your eyesight, but it's not like the wall is falling and needs to be replaced.
Correct.
And that's the biggest thing that we're seeing right now. And, you know, we were talking and you were saying how in other states that you've worked in the past, they handle that part a little bit different, because then they want to be very transparent of this is the status of the home.
Yes.
And you're going to get an inspection, and you said you're going to get 100 pages, but really only 3 are the things that we're willing to repair. Everything else is just your knowledge that eventually it will repair. And you mentioned 20-year-old air conditioning. I mean, my house has a 20-year-old air conditioning, and every time I get it serviced, because I do the maintenance every month or every 6 months like you're supposed to, the guy's like, man, I know that you're paying a little bit more in electricity on it, but these air conditionings, if you maintain them, they're the best in the world because they never break. So, you know, you have to really understand what you're stepping into. So how important is to have that conversation with the seller, with the buyer, to say, you're going to get the report, but we're not going to ask for every single repair, and we're not going to deduct any more money from what we already negotiated, because sometimes it's not the point, right?
Correct. And, you know, the point is that you know what is there.
Right.
Like the seller disclosure, the seller discloses everything that they know is wrong with the house.
Correct.
It doesn't mean that you're not going to find something else. And that's another thing that a lot of time buyers says, well, they didn't tell us that this was a problem. I said, well, probably because they didn't know. You know, a lot of times, if you think about it, there's things in your house. You don't know if an outlet doesn't work if you never use that outlet.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of little things. But it's very important, the education, like I said before, it's very important that we sit and talk, okay, what is really important to you?
Right.
You know, you're looking at this house. We went to see this house. We saw that it had an old roof, old windows, old air conditioning, old water heater, and we made an offer based on that. We knew that they were old already. We knew that they're not going to be probably the best, and that's how we presented the offer.
Right.
So we cannot ask for everything. And also, you know, sometimes people, what they don't understand is if you ask for every little item, if I'm in the buyer side and my client does everything, I tell them, I said, you know what, if that was your house and we get a request for repairs that has 20 little items and one big item, and the big item is going to cost $5,000 and the 20 little items are going to cost $500. Let me tell you, we fix 20 and reject one.
Yes. Oh, that's a great point.
You know, so you really have to prioritize.
Yes.
You don't want to ask, oh, the door is just, it's not closing right.
Correctly, yeah.
Big deal.
Yeah.
You know, however, we cannot tell people it's not a big deal because we're not inspectors.
Yes.
We're not contractors. So, you know, we always send it back to the specialist. I cannot overstep my way. I may think this is stupid. Why would they even ask for that? I cannot do that. I just tell them, I said, think about this. These are based on the report. The inspector said that those are things to watch for. They're not the things that need to be fixed right away.
Right. You just mentioned something that is really important. And again, I don't mean to disrespect any professional out there, but I have to say it. And I think you brought up a good point. My point is, if you're still real estate agent, if you're a loan officer, if you're titled in escrow, you must, and again, I repeat, you must stay in your lane.
Yes.
Do not give opinions about something that is not within your realm.
Correct.
Because we've seen a lot of cancellations. And I tell you, because when I get a cancellation for my clients, I call the buyer's agent. I'm like, hey, we just got this cancellation. Because, of course, just say, and I think we have to get into more of the details a little bit, and we will. But, just because the seller says, or the buyer says, I want to cancel, it doesn't cancel right away. There has to be a mutual agreement between the cancellation, because most likely we here at Title and Escrow, we have earnest deposit, and we're trying to figure out, okay, well, who's that going to go to now?
Correct.
Right. So there's a lot of things that need to happen before the cancellation instructions really come out and they get executed by both parties, and then we are extremely aware of what the monies is going to get handed to. But you must stay in your lane. You really need to understand, because like I said, I have a lot of times that I call the buyer's agents. They're like, oh, well, they're canceling because of repairs. And then I call the listing agent. They're like, well, my seller, it doesn't want to go ahead and fix the repairs. And sometimes they're very silly repairs that they are fighting over, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, usually I'm thinking here and saying, well, Mr. Seller, you're willing to go ahead and, give up $80,000, $90,000 of proceeds over a $750 repair. I mean, so again, to each his own, but we must stay in our lanes. It's important for us to respect everybody's business.
Yes.
And what you said is your job as a real estate professional is just to educate your buyer and saying, hey, this is the report, but I am not going to, tell you what's great or what's bad. I mean, you, Mr. Buyer, need to make the decision at the end of the day. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it is. And, we always tell them, it says, if you don't understand something, let's call the inspector. They did the inspection. If you feel that this could be a major item, let's call a contractor.
Correct.
And, but I will not tell them. I mean, I will tell them, what, I think that spot there looks like maybe it's a water leak.
Right.
Did you see that in the ceiling? And they said, oh, you think it is? I said, I don't know.
Right,
I said, I just see a wet spot. We need to have somebody come and check that for you and see what it is.
Right.
And I always tell them, I said, because people always ask me, says, well, you're the expert. What would you do? I said, well, I am not going to tell you what to do.
Right.
I said, I can recommend, I said, based on the inspection, and the inspectors usually have one page that has these items are a problem, need to be repaired.
Right.
These problems need to be watched, and this is just wear and tear, not a big deal.
Correct.
So I said, if you have more questions, I said, if you're concerned about something, let's call the inspector, let's call a contractor. I said, what I recommend them to do is, I always say, if it's going to cause harm, if it's going to cause death, if it's a major, major expensive repair, let's do it. But again, sometimes even just because something is expensive or is a major problem, the seller doesn't have to fix it. And I think this is something that the buyers need to understand. The seller doesn't have to do anything. We can ask them and they can say yes or no. But the seller doesn't have to do it, because people say, well, they're going to have to fix it. I said, no, they're not. I said, they may choose to fix it, they may choose to give you a credit, or they may say, you know what? You want it, you take it as is, and if you don't, sayonara.
Yes, and again, right, I think it's really important for you to make your buyers understand that the seller also has the ultimate decision, because at the end of the day, they don't have to sell.
Well, they want to sell. This is what I always tell people, and I tell the other agent, whether I'm the buyer side or seller side.
Correct.
We're here to reach the same goal.
Yes.
One wants to buy, one wants to sell.
Correct.
We're mediators. We're in the middle. We're going to help them do that.
Correct.
But what we need to make sure is that people understand that nobody needs to do anything.
Right.
The seller doesn't need to fix it.
Yes.
Except if it's a VA or FHA loan, and then there's some items that are going to come up with the VA or FHA appraisal.
Correct.
But if you accept one of those loans, you know that those little things are going to need to be fixed.
Correct.
But otherwise, really, a seller doesn't need to do anything if he doesn't want to.
Right.
And the buyer cannot force them. And, and then sometimes, like we were talking earlier, there's small amount of money for a repair that everybody gets like really stuck with it, or it's like this old refrigerator that the buyer wants to keep and the seller wants to keep. There's a washer and dryer that is not matching, that has been there for 30 years, and then the buyer wants it. The seller says, no, I want it. You really need to sit and have that conversation with your client and say,
correct,
is it really worth for you to lose this property for that amount of money?
Right.
What would that do for you if you don't have that house?
Exactly.
You need to move in 30 days. If you don't get this house, do you really want to lose it for that amount? At the end of the day, if you put that amount in your mortgage, it's nothing.
Yes, that is true.
$1,000 is not going to be much.
It's not going to change your
money,
payment.
But it's not going to change your life.
Yes.
And the same with the seller. You need to move out of state. You need to sell this house. Is it really worth fighting for this repair or this $1,000 or $500? What would it do to you if we cannot sell? Then your house is going to go back in the market. Then your house needs to be put back for sale. We may have to take a lower price.
Yeah.
I said, how much is going to cost you per month? When you have a house and you don't sell it, you have holding costs.
Yes, correct.
And that's a lot of money.
Yes.
So can you afford that while you wait for another house? So there's a lot of things that we need to talk to our clients and make them understand that sometimes $200, $300, $500, $1,000 are not going to make a difference.
Right. And one of the biggest things, Haya, is that, everybody sees a problem with an older air conditioning.
Yes.
Or, the plumbing hasn't been updated for, a while, a couple of years. And usually it happens when you're sitting and you're looking at a little bit older neighborhoods. A lot of the time, the plumbing and the air conditioning is working fine, but nobody can guarantee. And again, I say this again, nobody can guarantee how long an air conditioning unit is going to last, because there have been scenarios where there's a brand new unit and then within 6 months it's broken down. So nobody can guarantee that. But if the buyer is aware that it's a working unit and things could happen, most likely they're not going to fight over something like that. That's why you guys are professionals usually recommend a home warranty, right?
Correct. We recommend a home protection plan. So then, as long as everything is working at time of close of escrow, if something happens, they have that protection, and we try to ask that always for the seller to provide, whether we have the listing, so we recommend that to the seller, because when you're selling a house, you can get a home protection plan for the seller, which when the inspections report comes, will fix many of those items that are in the inspection report.
Oh, okay.
And that's a seller coverage. Usually doesn't cost anything to the seller until closing, depending on the plan, and we give them different options for that.
Right.
But people need to really think about all of those things. And again, if something is working, the seller doesn't need to fix it.
Right.
And we had a situation, and this is like a little bit of an extreme, but we had a client that had a listing.
Yeah.
It was a house fairly new in Summerlin, $1 million home. And they had a leak on the second floor from the bathroom, which caused water damage. It got remediated by a water company that comes and does that. They dried everything. The buyer came and everything was dry. They requested that the seller does an air study to make sure that there's no mold. They did. Everything was clean. They came requesting $10,000 for a future potential mold issue.
Are you kidding me?
No. Swear to God.
No way. Really?
Yeah. When we saw that, we thought, no way. So are we going to ask for future potential leak in the roof, or future potential earthquake, or future potential flood?
Right.
Yeah. It was like the most incredible. I've never had in my 21 years of selling real estate, nobody has ever asked for a future potential problem that doesn't exist.
That is unbelievable.
And this is a newer house. Everything was fine.
Right. And like you said, the issue was remedy.
Yes, it was remedied.
There was a report saying everything is clear, there is no mold and everything, and they're saying, well, just in case in the future something happens, I want $10,000.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That is crazy. You know what? Let me get more into this. What did your seller say about this?
They said, and I'm not going to say exactly what they said.
Well, you could say it because I could.
Yeah, because you're going to have to totally blip it, bleep, because it's going to be bleep, bleep. Oh my God. And it was one of my agents' clients listing, and he says, what? I said, honey, you just say no, because this is absolutely the most ridiculous thing we've heard.
Yeah.
And, and sometimes when an agent allows their client to dictate everything and they don't educate them, people will ask things that make no sense.
You know what? I'm going to give you some clap on that, because you're right. If you're the professional and you just, not that you don't want to take in consideration the buyer's request. But sometimes there's some requests that you're like, this is not gonna, stand. You need to create, or you need to have a conversation with your buyer and try to make some sense on them before you actually present something like, hey, we need a $10,000 for future, for future anything.
Yeah.
Right. And that's really important. On the communication and you owning the part of you being professional as a real estate professional, right?
Yeah. One of the things, again, as real estate professionals, our job is not to decide for our clients.
Correct.
Our job is to guide, educate, and
advise
our clients. At the end of the day, they're going to be the ones that determine, because they always ask me, what would you do?
Right.
Or do you like this house? I said, do you like it?
Right.
Does it meet your needs?
Correct.
Because probably 99% of the houses I sell, I don't like. I would never move there.
Yes.
But that's irrelevant.
It is.
What I want and what I need and what, but if the house meets your needs, it's the right place for you, you like it, it makes no difference. My job is to make sure that you get a good house at a good price, have a good transaction,
right,
and you get the best deal.
Correct.
And for me, it's just to educate and guide you. And I think, and we were talking a little bit about the AI. A lot of people are going now with AI.
Yes.
And AI is telling them, make an offer for this amount, do this for that amount, have this here, have this there. AI will help you a lot.
Yeah.
But they don't have that human factor.
No.
They cannot negotiate for you. They cannot go and look at how the house looks. They cannot see the condition. They cannot see what are the things that we can work out for you.
Right.
And, we are strong supporters of AI.
Yeah.
But remember, you cannot change the human factor.
That is 100% correct. Because, and we were just talking outside the air, which I teach a AI class on how to take AI and help the real estate agent farm their market, how to, find the potential seller, how to find the potential buyer and everything. But, one of the things that everybody has a misunderstanding of AI is going to respond on how you ask.
Yes.
If you come in and say, hey, is this a good price for this home? AI is going to be like, nope, it's not. Right? But if you come in and you give him more information, say, hey, is this a good price for Summerlin area based on this many square footage, this many baths, blah, 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 and you give him the more information, then it's going to give you a more intelligent information.
Yeah.
And when you said about this person coming in and saying, hey, we want $10,000 for future repair, I'm thinking AI must have told and said, ask for this.
Yeah,
right?
Probably.
Because, again, right, we're not giving them the full information. And yes, AI is a helpful tool, but we really need to understand that this is more than just AI, because it's negotiation. Sometimes, there's, things that if people like a house, it doesn't matter if there's a, waste, place right next to it. They just love the house. So it really depends on the real estate agent to understand that, right?
Yeah.
And educate them.
You have to. People like houses that sometimes you wonder. We had a client also a couple of years ago. He bought a house that we told him, we don't recommend you to buy it.
Right.
We don't recommend you. I mean, we have it everywhere, multiple times.
Right.
This is really bad idea.
Right.
He wanted it, he bought it. Oh my gosh, the problems that house had. So many problems.
Right.
But he wanted it. He wanted. He still likes the house. He complains about all the problems, but
yes.
But he wanted the house.
Right.
But going back to AI, they also made an example of like somebody asking AI, how much shall I offer for this house?
Right.
So AI went and checked properties in the neighborhood. Well, nothing sold in that neighborhood for several years.
Right.
So it came back with a price from a few years ago.
Oh,
and it said, well, you should offer like $200,000 less because, these are the prices that sold. So this guy went to the realtor and told him, yeah, make this offer. And it was like, why? But what happens is that as real estate agents, as realtors, we will check houses comparable, not only there, but we have the criteria. We're going to go a little bit outside for comparables. If you're not super specific with AI, they're not going to do that. They don't know. And as a consumer, you don't always know how to find those houses. You don't always know what to ask to help you with that.
Yes, and let's be honest, right? You guys are real estate professionals, and we just, I brought up the point earlier that in a couple of days you guys are gonna have to pay your MLS dues.
Yes.
Right. Let's talk about how important that MLS tool is for you guys as a real estate professional, because I know that everybody says, well, I got a Zillow report. Yeah, well, Zillow is doing a blanket and market analysis. You guys utilizing your tool, which is the MLS, you guys could get a really, really very in-depth market analysis without being an appraisal. I mean, it's very close to an appraisal when you guys really do your job.
If we do our job well done, yes, because we look at a lot of factors and we look at a lot of similarities.
Yes.
And, we can look and see, because you can see houses in the market, and if you don't know their condition, I mean, I just have a house that is in terrible condition, terrible condition. But if you look at the comparables in the neighborhood, a lot of them sold for about $100,000 more, but they were remodeled. And when you go and you just grab the comparables, you will go and think, oh yeah, this house should sell for, I don't know, $450,000. When in reality, if we can get $300 for that house, we're going to be very happy.
Good.
Because of the condition of the house.
Right.
But if you just go and get numbers and put them together, nobody has checked. Yeah. This house is in better condition than this one. It's have a bigger lot. This one has 3 bedrooms. This has 2. This has 1-car garage. It has 2-car garage. This has no garage.
Right.
But 4 bedrooms. You have to adjust for all of those variables.
Yes.
And come to an acceptable price in between.
And again, right, that is you as a professional, and you continue to teach your team and say we have to stay, very, very in the professional side of it. You have to do your homework as a professional. You have to, and sometimes you know what, you have to drive up to those listings that are out there, and you really have to walk them through and say, whoa, the condition of this home is not the best. Or sometimes you walk in and you're like, oh wow, the condition of this home is much better than what we saw on the pictures, because AI does wonders in pictures as well.
Oh my gosh, you get all kind of things. One of the things that sometimes we do is when we have a buyer that thinks that their house is amazing, we take them to see homes in their neighborhood that are amazing, that are said, because they said, well, this one is $600,000. Why is mine going to be $500,000?
Right.
Let me show you.
The $600,000 home. Oh, I like that
tactic. Let me show you, because then we can compare. And a lot of times I also tell them, I said, you know what, let's reverse roles here.
Yes.
I said, if you walked through the door today to your house, would you pay what you're asking somebody else to pay?
Right.
And they go like, well, maybe not. I said, right. I said, so what makes you think that somebody else will do that?
Right.
What makes you think that somebody else is not going to see what you see?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe. I said, yeah.
Yeah.
Or, sometimes, and that happened a lot right after COVID, everyone's like, oh, yeah, they're from California. They have cash. They don't care how much they're going to pay.
Right.
That's not true. They still have a real estate agent that is going to advise them on the price.
Yes.
Just because you have cash doesn't mean you're going to pay whatever.
No.
Because somebody's asking you. They said, oh, yeah, somebody from California is going to pay for it. No, not necessarily. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
People are, if they have a good real estate agent with them, and there's a lot of very good agents.
100.
They're going to advise them, just like I'm going to advise my client. I said, if you're going to do that, you're going to be overpaying.
Correct.
That's up to you.
Right.
You want to do it, you can do it.
Yeah. And let's be honest, during certain markets, sometimes people overpay because that's the home that they want. But
absolutely,
the market has a funny way to correct itself.
Yes.
And I see right now that we're going through that correction period where a lot of people are saying, you know what, price reduction, price adjustment, price. Yes. Well, and then people are like, oh my God, the real estate bubble is bursting. Like, no, the market is correcting itself because of the other factor that you mentioned earlier, which is days in the market. If your property is sitting 100 days in the market, you do have to do a price adjustment, reduction, whatever you want to call it, but you have to do something with the pricing because people are not coming out of the woodwork and wanting to overpay you $20,000, $30,000 for your house that's been sitting there. Yeah. So the market shifts every single,
so many years we shift.
Yes, but I would say that before, a couple of years ago, because you and I have been in the industry for a long time, it was a predictive market, right? We will be like, oh, it's slow during November, December, January, February will start getting busy, March, April, May, it will get busy, then summer will be really busy, and then it slow down again. But now the market is changed I could say every other month.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at what happened right now recently. The interest rate a month and a half ago was under 6%, and now we're over 6.25%, and 6.75%. So the market shifts very quickly now, and people that are thinking of should I buy, they should. You should buy.
People should always buy, because real estate goes up and goes down, goes up and goes down. If you look at real investors, at millionaires, billionaires in real estate, they hold to the properties for a very long time.
Yes.
Because in real estate, you're going to have the up time and the low time. So they know when to buy low, and then they hold it when it's low, and then when it goes up, they may sell it or they may hold it longer because it will increase in price. And like you said, prices are actually adjusting because we had an unrealistic price increase after COVID.
Correct.
Prices went up so fast and so high. Affordability in Las Vegas or in Clark County, for a lot of people, they cannot afford a first-time home. Our median price is about $480, and our average is about $620,000.
Right. Yeah.
$620,000.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, and $480,000 for an average price, a lot of people cannot afford that house.
Right. It's crazy because you mentioned earlier people coming from California, but do you know what the median sales price in California is right now?
What is it right now?
$968,000. Yeah. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Right?
That's why they move here.
Exactly. So taking that in consideration, again, going back to the buyer and being picky about an inspection, you have somebody that's selling their home at $900,000 and they're coming here buying a home at $600,000. I don't think they're going to get very picky about the inspection report, right?
No, they do. They do.
Okay.
People still do. Everybody gets picky.
Right.
Because it's their money, so they don't care. Like I said before, just because they have money, they have cash, doesn't mean that they're just going to waste it.
Right.
And they get picky. One of the things that we've seen is that houses that are move-in ready are selling faster. People are wanting move-in ready houses that they don't have to do anything, or houses that are totally distressed, that are just like an investor's dream.
Yes.
Investors flock over it. The houses in between are the ones that are taking a little longer. Those are the ones that, because people come and say, oh, I don't want to change the carpet and paint and do the yard and change the kitchen,
Right.
So it's like we have like those two. But if a house is priced right, every house is going to sell.
Yes.
It's all about the price at the end of the day.
It is, because like you said earlier, and I made you repeat it again, and you said the value of the home, it really is on what people are willing to pay, not how much you sell, not how much you put it for sale for. And that's really important, because in this market that's ever changing for us, we need to be checking price adjustments all the time. We need to see what the activity is. I mean, we talked earlier about how the inventory is almost at 9,000 homes right now, 6,500 more or less are single family residents. I mean, there's a lot to choose from right now, from where it was, 3,200 Total, right?
Yeah, we had at some point, I think, under 1,500 single-family homes, and people were paying a lot of cash extra. I remember we used to put a listing on a Friday, and then we had showing Saturday and Sunday. Monday we had offers before people even saw the house. We had multiple offers. Sometimes we had 20, 30 offers in one house above asking price. They would offer you anything.
Yeah, that's crazy. And again, we're not in that market right now. We don't ever want to go back to the market again, because again, right, it doesn't help anybody. I believe right now, Haya, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe right now we're in a healthy market.
Yes.
There's plenty of houses to choose from. You as the buyer or the seller, you just need to really connect with the real estate professional that's going to advise you. And I think that you said that word a couple of minutes ago, but you guys are making them, giving them data, educating them, advising them so they can make the best decision of what's beneficial for them. Because if I have a seller that needs to move out of here in a month, price range needs to be really aggressive when you kind of list it, correct?
Absolutely. It depends on the urgency of the person that is selling.
Yes.
If you need to sell, let's price it just right. And if we price it, and a lot of people, they like to play with it. Some people say, well, I'm going to price it higher because people are going to make me an offer lower. You know what? You may not get an offer because if it's too high and people perceive that it's too high, nobody's going to go and look at your house.
Correct.
So that's not going to work. Some people like to put it at market value, and they understand that they may have to give a little bit of concessions, and they're okay with that. And then we have the gamblers. The gamblers like to put it really low and see, okay, let's start the game.
Yes.
Who's going to give me more?
Right.
So you need to learn what your client wants to do, but I never advise to put it too high. And if we put it too high, we need to come to an agreement that if in 2 weeks we don't have showings and we don't have offers, or we have showings and we don't have offers, we are overpriced.
Yes. And I love, because, you and I both understand the language, and we are always out there getting educated and trying to get information. And you just mentioned you went to go see Mike Ferry, and I think he's phenomenal. But he always has a saying that he teaches the agents to ask a question to the seller and saying, at what price point do you want to become a landlord?
Yeah.
Because at one point the home is not going to sell, and you're going to probably have to rent it. And now it's a totally different monster that you have in your hand.
Oh yeah, no, you don't want to do that.
Right?
Well, some people like to do that. It's a good income.
Yes.
It's tough.
But again, right, you as the real estate professional, you're advising them and saying, if you want to sell in this time frame, this is probably what we should be. My recommendation is this should be the price. Now, with prices being steady, with the inventory being healthy, how important is to offer incentives for the buyer something? Because right now we hear a lot of buyers, they're like, oh my God, the interest rate is so. Now the interest rate is not high. At a 14% interest rate, that's a high interest rate. A 9% interest rate, that's a high interest rate. Yes, it's higher than usual, but at one point it's beneficial for the seller not to reduce the sales price, but also probably give a little bit more incentive for the buyer to come in and say, hey, this is a better value than the house on the street.
I think incentives are being asked now a lot.
Okay.
But we cannot ask for everything. And, we tell our sellers, just be aware they're going to ask for closing costs. They're going to ask for their agent's fee.
Correct.
Because, we put that in our offer now.
Correct.
And they're probably going to ask for a home protection plan. And, during their offer, and then they're going to ask for repairs.
Yes.
So just be aware that we're going to get all those things asked. So, we always talk about what would work best. If I have the seller, I said, just be aware of that. No matter what price point you're going to be, they're going to ask for something. We can always put, seller will contribute X amount for carpet repair. Seller will contribute to lower your interest rate. And, and those, you can lower their interest rate. But again, you have to think what will work best for you. So if you're the buyer, you need to realize, okay, do I want them to lower the house by $10,000?
Right.
Or do I want $10,000 in closing cost?
Because there's two different things.
Two different things.
Yes.
So if we lower it by $10,000, the difference per month on your mortgage is negligible. It's like having a couple of Starbucks a week.
Right.
But if you get $10,000 cash for your closing, and you don't have to bring your own cash, you have those extra $10,000 cash to paint your house,
correct,
to get the carpet, to
correct,
do other things. So we have to talk with both of them. I mean, we're seeing concessions on pretty much every house.
Right.
Some bit more, some less. It just depends on the seller's urgency.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it depends on the buyer's need.
Right. And I think that's always been the truth about real estate, how urgent the seller needs to sell and how much the buyer really understands what type of home they want. Because, I mentioned earlier jokingly, I said, $250,000 home at Summerlin, that will never happen. I mean, the average, I think the average price right now in Summerlin is a little bit over $580,000, I think.
Yeah, there's a few like around 500. They're smaller and they need repairs.
Right.
They're old. They need a little bit updating.
Right. But you could find a home that is Summerlin adjacent.
Yes.
Right? That you still get the benefits of living close to Summerlin. Yes. You're not paying Summerlin taxes. You're not paying all of that stuff. But, you could buy a home that is worth the while, and it's really a little bit more affordable. Absolutely. Just outside of Summerlin. So it really is having the conversation with the professional and saying, hey, I know this is what you want, but do you want to think about this maybe?
Yeah.
And a lot of the times, I think that solves a lot of the issues for the buyers, right?
It does, because people say, oh, I want to be in Green Valley. I want to be in Summerlin. Right. They're stuck to that. But let's say that you want to be in Summerlin. Mm-hmm. You can go to Piccoli Ranch. It's right in the middle of Summerlin.
Correct.
And it's just a different zip code.
Yes.
But the houses are a little bit less pricey.
Right.
You can go to the lakes.
Yes.
Older homes, really close to Summerlin also.
Yeah.
So, it just depends what people want. And, we need to work with all their needs, because not everybody, when you have a family with children, they're looking at schools.
Yes.
So you need to know where they want to go, what schools they are. Some people want to be close to work. Some people want to be close to the highway because they travel a lot. They want to be closer to the airport. Some people, I don't know, everybody has different needs.
Yes.
And just because they're moving here and somebody told them, oh, you need to live in Summerlin or you need to live in Green Valley, that doesn't mean that that's going to meet their needs.
Correct. And that's really important, because really when we look at people that are coming out of state, they either know two places, Henderson, three places, Henderson, Green Valley, or Summerlin. Yeah. Right. But, there's some beautiful areas. Like you said, Piccoli Ranch, it's a gorgeous area. It's older homes, a little bit more land. You're getting a little bit more, maybe RV park. There's other requirements that come with that thing. But because they're like, oh, no, I want this, and that. And then you really have to go in and start digging and saying, well, let's look at really what you need.
Yes.
And then you start realizing that, yeah, they do want to maybe live Summerlin, but there's other options for them.
There's a lot of options. The other misconception is North Las Vegas.
Yes.
They think that North Las Vegas is horrible.
Yes.
We have beautiful communities there. Centennial, Aliante. Yes. There's beautiful, beautiful communities that are in North Las Vegas. North Las Vegas is a city.
Yes.
It has more desirable area to some people and less desirable area to some people. But it's a great place to be.
Haya, I had not been to the Aliante Casino in a while, and I went around there a couple of weeks ago. I was doing a signing over there, and I was blown away about the amount of new construction that's happening over there. It's amazing.
Yeah, and there's beautiful homes.
Yes.
There's beautiful communities. Yeah. Lone Mountain is pretty close to Summerlin area. They have a lot of brand new construction, a lot of beautiful, beautiful homes there.
Yes.
So there's a lot of places that people can go that they're just not aware exist.
Right now, I think the newest thing that they just talking about is Red Rock. We're getting so much closer to Red Rock and Red Rock, right? Again, communities are out there. You just need to be able to be open-minded, first of all.
Yes.
For both buyers and sellers, you need to be open-minded. You don't have to do what the agent is telling you, but you do need to listen to their advice, because at the end of the day, what the real estate professional wants is to help you to see either buy you a home at a good price or sell your home at a great price.
Yeah, and you just need people to tell you everything. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to make a judgment on anything. We're here to help you get what you want.
Correct.
And if we don't know, if people don't give you enough information, we can't help them.
Yeah.
We can guess. I cannot read anybody's mind.
Right, yeah.
And nobody else can read anybody's mind. And sometimes people, they just don't want to tell you things. They think, they don't need to know. Or, well, I can't help you if I don't know.
Yeah, that's very true. And the other conversation is this, and usually I do this, well, I'm in the middle of a signing or we're in the middle of a closing and you have a buyer coming in here and, the biggest things like, property taxes. Oh, the seller's paying property. And they're like, yes, good. Property taxes are being, I'm like, well, remember, one of these days you're going to be a seller.
Yeah.
Right. So the roles do reverse at one point of another, because, if you're buying today, you will eventually have to sell at one point.
Correct.
Right. And you have to have the mind shift of, I'm buying this home, but what is my exit strategy at any given point? Because at one point you will have to sell your home.
Yeah. I just think that people, they want want.
Yes.
Like, I have a client that says, well, we need to sell it for this price,
right.
but I want to buy it for this price.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't happen like that. When you sell high, you buy high.
Yes.
When you sell low, you buy low.
Right.
So, the market is not going to be better for you.
Right.
When it's not for somebody else. And there's some expenses, everything is negotiable. And I think people need to understand that. Everything is negotiable. The only thing that is not, that the seller has to pay by law is the resale package for the HOA.
Yes.
And that is by law, and it doesn't matter if you want to pay it or not. The law requires that you as a seller pay it, and the buyer cannot pay it.
Haya, I'm glad you brought up the point because when we call, right, well, not me, but my escrow officers call the sellers like, hey, we ordered the resale package. Here is the link to make the payment. And all of a sudden, it's a $300, $400 payment. They flip.
Yes.
And they're like, oh my God, this is not an us cost. This is an HOA cost. And a lot of the sellers are like, I am going to go talk to my HOA and blah, blah, blah. And that cost needs to be paid by the seller.
By the seller, yeah.
Yes.
And it is the law.
Yes.
It is not a real estate thing. It's the real estate division.
Yes.
It's the law.
Yeah.
And they have to pay for that. They have to provide it. Mm-hmm. And, the longer they wait to provide it, the more the buyer can get out because the buyer has 5 days after they receive it to review it.
Yes.
And if they want to cancel the contract, they can cancel it after that.
Right.
So it's in the seller's best interest to get it as soon as the contract.
Yeah. And it's really, and again, it's really important for people to understand that, you're getting into a binding contract.
Yes.
Right? When you're buying real estate, your inspection, you could use it as an excuse to cancel, but it's not really worth getting into the fight. The HOA demands or the HOA CC&Rs and everything, that is something that the law is saying, hey, if you don't like what you're going to get yourself into, you have the right to cancel, and that is by law.
That's by law, yeah.
And then the other one is, well, if you can't afford to get a loan, you could go ahead and exit out of the transaction. But besides those 2 points, there's really no other...
we have the appraisal.
Well.
We have the appraisal contingency, but everything has timelines.
Yes.
So it's not that, I didn't get my loan, my contingency for my loan expired a week ago, and now my lender says you didn't get a loan and I'm going to get my money back. You're not.
Right.
Of course, again, everything is negotiable.
Yes.
Everything we do is negotiable.
Yes.
Everything from our fees to what the seller will pay, what the buyer will pay. Everything is negotiable.
Yeah. Well, Haya, the only thing that is non-negotiable is time.
Correct.
Because believe it or not, the hour has passed.
Oh my God, that was quick.
That was very quick. Yes. So I really appreciate you, Haya. I love working with you. I love talking to you. You have a lot of great knowledge. I think you and your team are doing phenomenal. So again, for the people that are out there listening and they want to go ahead and be represented by a good group of real estate agents, how can I get a hold of you? They can call me. I always answer my phone at 702-538-5565. They can go to my website, the Kessler Team LV, and they can reach me by email, hayakessler01@gmail.com. They can find me as the Kessler Team on Facebook. They can find me as Haya Vegas on Instagram. And we're here to help anybody. Very good. Well, Haya, we have like about less than a minute left. Do you want to go ahead and give one last tip to those buyers and sellers out there with what's happening in the market right now? I know a lot of them are scared and what's happening and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, buying real estate is the best thing you could do right now. I mean, I know multi-millionaires, billionaires that they've had a portfolio of real estate, and that's how they started making their money. I think my best advice is if you need to buy, do it today. If you need to sell, do it today. Yes. Don't wait. Yes. Because unless you're a major investor, prices in real estate are going to go up eventually. And if you wait too long, when the interest rates go down, the prices will go up. And you're going to lose that equity in the house. And if you need to sell, you don't want to have holding costs if you need to sell today. So don't wait.
the right time to buy and the right time to sell is today.
Very good. Very good. Well, Haya, I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and meet with me. Again, my name is JC Castillo. I am with Equity Title. If you want to go ahead and have your transaction handled by Equity Title, please give me a call. You can call me at 702-416-4302. We have a lot of great escrow officers in all sides of town. We have 3 offices. So we're available to go ahead and do that. Haya, again, I really appreciate you taking the time of your busy day to come and talking to me. Please take care of each other. Have a wonderful Easter, because this week is Eastern. So please celebrate, make sure you see, and we'll be here on our next episode.